And Ross, you know, is someone who's made a name for himself in the Open Series, but now starting to make a name for himself across multiple circuits. Top 8 at Grand Prix Cleveland a couple weeks ago.
And for Ross, you know, these kind of matches, I feel they matter a lot to him. You know, he loves playing against good competition.
Yeah.
He loves proving himself on camera and on the big stage, and Reid, perhaps the biggest name in the tournament this weekend.
Scalding Tarn going to search up an island here for Duke. We will see very quickly that he's on Miracles, as there's a Sensei's Divining Top. Ross, of course, known for playing Elves. He's decided to switch it up. We talked to him, about that a little bit earlier today.
He said that Dig Through Time was close enough to Treasure Cruise that there were still a lot of young Pyromancers in the format and all the associated splash damage, a bunch of 1 damage effects. And he felt as a result of this that Elves was just not a very good choice. And mixing up with a deck I've never seen him play before in Sultai Delver.
Yeah, we actually saw Ross earlier this year when we were in Philadelphia, as he does deploy Delver of Secrets. We saw him earlier this year in Philadelphia actually get second place with Storm. He lost in the finals to Daryl Ayers, who was playing Tamer Delver with Kurt Apes, which was obviously a really fun tournament. Never going to forget that one. This here's a brainstorm from Reid. But Ross, we don't really ever see him doing the Delver thing. He did the Delver thing in Standard. He actually has a Standard Open win with that deck a couple of years ago with the old blue-white Delver deck that ran rampant with Gut Shots and Vapor Snags. But in Legacy, we don't see him do this very often. This here's 8 days on the Brainstorm. Checking with Delver, will Merriam. It is not a spell, so just a 1-1 for now. Duke with some mana issues. He'll have to take 1 right now. He's going to go down to 19. Tie game.
Yeah, it looks like Reid kept a 1-land Divining Top hand on the play there. Totally justifiable. Try to take a draw step to find the land, then try to resolve a Brainstorm to find the land. Ross sniffed out that there might be something wrong with Reid's draw and decided to daze the Brainstorm, got paid off.
Delver Secrets number 2. Duke could be under the gun very quickly here. He'll take a draw step. He'll cast a Brainstorm. That's going to resolve. So Reid will get to take a look at a couple of cards here. See if he can find another land. If he doesn't, this game could be over before it even starts. And now it looks like he's got a tough decision to make. He's going to go in the tank.
If he doesn't have land number 2, he still has 1 more opportunity to top next turn in his upkeep and get 1 more look at it. But this is not where you want to be, potentially facing down a 3-turn clock next turn if Ross is able to flip these Delvers.
Reid with a Pyroblast in hand, among other options. Brainstorm is done resolving. There's a land. It's a Plains. This is another top. He'll pass the turn back to Merriam. Merriam will put the Delvers on the stack. Take a look. Will not flip. And no Brainstorm either. So let's see how he wants to move forward. The draw step was a Brainstorm, so he's going to cast that now. Take a look at a couple. And he'll put some back here in a moment.
So Reid avoiding catastrophe this turn. If Ross's Delvers would have flipped, that would have been really bad news. But now he knows that it's happening next turn.
Yeah. Almost assuredly. 2 cards go back here from Merriam. Brainstorm done resolving. The land is a Verdant Catacombs. In come the Delvers. Duke going to go down to 16. Yeah, we'll pass the turn back Reid's way. Reid will take a draw. He'll spin a top. Looks like he may be on the hunt for more lands. Forcible counterbalance. I think a Terminus in there too.
And for a 3-color build of the deck, Reid with a Pyroblast on his main deck, this is a very basic land-heavy build of the deck. 3 plains and 6 islands. 3 tundras and only 1 volcanic island.
And people love their basics in this deck.
Well, this is a deck, I think more than almost any in Legacy, that really just needs to make its land drops. And so getting hit with a Wasteland early on is a disaster for the Sora deck.
Go to Merriam's turn. Almost sacrificed that Verdant Catacombs. Now he'll sacrifice. So whatever he put away, does not spell, obviously. So no guarantee that those are flipping.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, if he sets any spell on top there, even if he doesn't want to draw it, he can reveal and then sack the Verdant Catacombs before his draw step. So Ross's hand must be extremely land heavy for that to have happened.
Yeah, that's what leads me to believe too. Is there something going on with his hand that's not great?
Yeah.
If this is the sequence that he's made.
And from, Reid's side of the table, you're really wiping your brow right now because this game could have gone off the rails with you missing your second land drop and so forth. But if Ross misses on this flip, I think Reid's right back in it. Even if he does flip, Terminus can catch him right back up.
Days might be a big reveal here, given that Reid is having some mana issues. So Days will be the draw step. Merriam will start by attacking for 6. Duke down to 10. Wasteland. And a passing of the turn. Reid will take a draw. This is a Terminus. No answer. You really got to wonder what's going on with Ross's hand now.
Well, I think he might. It's either lands. He might be keeping some creatures back. So if he got hit with the Terminus, he could rebuild. So it wouldn't surprise me if Ross untaps and plays a threat or even 2.
Maybe some number of abrupt decays in hand.
Could also be the case. Removal makes a lot of sense right now.
There's Tassiger. A lot of cards in Ross's hand, though. Here is Forcible removing a counterspell for Duke to fight over Tassiger. That'll get countered. The follow-up's a Delver. Merriam will pass the turn back. We'll go to Duke in just a moment. He's going to spend his top at the end of Merriam's turn.
I think that Reid picked up a Scalding Tarn, in which case now that Pyroblast is available. Third land drop's really important for obvious reasons.
What's interesting is will it be a basic or a non-basic since there is a Wasteland on the
Well,
table.
the problem is that if he wants to cast the Pyroblast, it's a one and done. He's only got the 1 Volcanic in his deck. With that said, that's the only red card, so he can make that exchange. It's bad for him to get hit with Wasteland here for obvious reasons, but if he's concerned with casting the Pyroblast, he can do that, get Wasteland, and not be worried about drawing dead red cards for the remainder of the game.
Well, he says, give me an island. No interest in a volcanic island. Basic will work just fine. And we'll see what he's got coming here in just a moment, because he sacrificed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
He's up to something here. Maybe it's counterbalance? It'll just be a dig through time. A card that I know Reid likes a lot of in this deck. 3 copies.
Yeah, no copies of Ponder that we saw a lot of in Brian Brondawin's deck last round. A lot of ways to build this deck. Reid on 0 creatures. Brian Brondawin had a couple clicks and a couple snapcasters.
This build very reminiscent to what we have seen him play before. Again, dig through time, it seems, is a card Reid is very fond of. Looks a lot like his Players' Championship build from last December.
I wonder if part of the reason Reid kept his opening 7, I thought it was fine, is he just assumed that Ross was playing Elves, and he just needs Dividing Top and the ability to set up Terminus.
That could certainly be part of it.
I mean, I'm shocked. If I was Ross's opponent, I would be shocked at sitting down and watching him open up on Underground Sea and Delver of Secrets.
No, me too. That's where you get that little bit of edge. It's like when Joe played Reanimator at the Players' Championship.
Yep.
Delver's flipping, Spell Pierce the reveal. The combination of Spell Pierce and Daze could be pretty potent right now. Delver going to come in, Duke down to 5. Looks like there is a follow-up. Maybe. Ross a little unsure.
Well, the concern probably is not something like Terminus, because with Spell Pierce and Daze, he can check it if that happens on the upkeep. But I feel like Ross needs to add something else. 2 turns here is very dangerous to give Reid.
Deathrise Shaman's not a bad addition. Duke gonna spin top.
I mean, the worst case scenario here is something like Supreme Verdict, where you're not happy you played the second threat, but I don't think Ross can afford to give Reid several turns of topping and potentially shuffling.
He's tapping 3 mana. Council's Judgment. Spell Pierce. Game over. Ross Merriam going to win game number 1 here over Reid Duke. Salty Delver up a game here over Miracles. Merriam out for a little revenge against the Duke, given what happened to the Players' Championship. As we turn our attention to the sideboards, you've got Reid's in front of you.
a Gravedigger's Cage, a Rest in Peace, 2 copies of Vendilion Click, a Pyroblast, 2 Red Elemental Blast, a Blue Blast, 2 Spell Pierces, a Pithy Needle, 2 copies of Blood Moon, a Basic Mountain, and a Supreme Verdict. The 2 Blood Moons, I think, are coming in here. They're very powerful against Sultai Delver, and they're probably pretty unexpected as well. A lot of Miracle lists are not playing with Blood Moon, even if they do touch a little bit of red. The Mountain comes in as a consequence of that. I think the Supreme Verdict is very good in this matchup. I like the Red Blasts a lot here as well.
Other side of things here from Merriam, a Gravedigger's Cage, a Needle, 2 Nile Spellbombs, 3 Thoughtseizes, a Dismember, a Flusterstorm, a Vendilion Click, a Treant Nemesis, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, a Sylvan Library, and 2 copies of Golgari Charm.
Some pretty basic anti-control stuff will be coming in here. The additional counter spells. I think the Needle will come in here as it's a very good answer to Sensei's Divining Top. I like the Vendilion Click. You know, the Sylvan Library, it's counter spells, sources of card advantage in long games, and specific answers to Sensei's Divining Top or Counterbalance. It's an interesting cat and mouse game with Counterbalance in the Abrupt Decay matchups because some people just immediately cut their counterbalances because they don't want to play against Abrupt Decay. As a result of this, some Sultai decks go ahead and just cut their Abrupt Decays, anticipating that. So that gives an incentive for people to bring some counterbalances back in because they're playing against fewer copies of Abrupt Decay post-board. And that sort of cat and mouse guessing game is very interesting.
We mentioned that both these players did play at the Star Stadium's Players' Championship in December. They actually played against each other in what was arguably the most entertaining match, but Brad Nelson won that tournament, and he'll be headed back to the Players' Championship. Of course, Jim Davis will be joining him. The question is, who else? We've got more tickets to punch for our Players' Championship, December 19th through the 20th. 16 competitors, $50,000. Nelson looking to repeat. Davis looking to improve on his performance last year. Got to figure out the rest of the crew.
And an opportunity for a new face to show up here as well. Brad, of course, the defending champion. Jim, not surprising that Jim or someone like Ross or one of our other established players would have gotten the Season 1 point invite, but this invitational could throw a wrench into things. We could see an entirely new face in the Players' Championship.
And hopefully that'll be the case. Again, December 19th and the 20th, 16 competitors, $50,000. See if Nelson can defend his title that he certainly earned. Had to get through a lot of great players and beat maybe the hottest Magic player in the world right now, Gerard Fabiano.
He's certainly on the short list. Gerard unfortunately couldn't make it this weekend due to some work conflicts, which is nice because it gives an opportunity for someone else to win the tournament.
It's so nice of him. Well, game number 2 is going to be underway here in just a moment between Merriam and Duke. So if you are just joining us, appreciate having us. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, of course, Matthias Hunt, Nick Miller, and new member of Open Series coverage, Ken Crocker, along with the rest of the SCG Live crew, here for our Season 1 Invitational in Richmond. At SCG Live, hashtag SCGINVI for your tweets all weekend long, as we are in round 6 of 16 right now. Ross, Merriam, and Reid Duke doing battle. Our standard portion of the day is done, but we do start tomorrow with that. So that'll be a lot of fun. And, of course, on Sunday for our elimination rounds, that'll be standard, best 3 out of 5. So a lot of standard action with Dragonstark here, but right now our focus on Legacy.
And that top 8 should be a blast.
Oh, yeah.
All the standard rounds are going to be great. Just a new environment and people trying to do their best. There's no way they have the best builds week 1. That's almost impossible. So not only is there a lot of cool decks that are going to be coming out of this, but I think a lot of room for improvement as well. These lists are going to evolve very quickly.
We've seen Anticipate, Thunderbreak Regent, Haven of the Spirit Dragon, Myth Realized. A lot of cards from Dragonstark here are already in standard. Hopefully we see some in Legacy too. As Merriam is happy with his hand, it looks like Duke's going to send it back. Take a look at 6. Duke, of course, one of the world's best. A lot of success on the Open Series circuit. An invitational champion a few years ago in Los Angeles. Played in our Players' Championship, 2nd place of the Season 3 Invitational. Lost to Tom Ross in the finals. They're now teammates, members of the Pantheon. And, of course, Ross, a lot of Open Series success for him as well. Not as much as Reid, but does have an invitational top 8 to his name, a couple Open Series victories, a couple runner-up finishes, too, and almost went back-to-back last year. Can't forget about that.
Came very, very close. Won the Standard Open and then lost in the finals of the Legacy Open the following day.
Dave Shields was his nemesis. Death and Taxes beating Elves. Both these players off to a great start so far this weekend. Merriam up a game here. See if he can keep it going or if Duke can tie things up as he's on a mulligan right now. Taking a long look at 6. He will keep. Scalding Tarn will start off game number 2. Here's the Underground Sea. That's a Deathrite Shaman. We'll go back Reid's way. Reid will take a draw step.
It's another card that's back in a big way now with the banning of Treasure Cruise.
A flooded strand and a passing of the turn. We go back to Ross. Deathrite Shaman going to come into the red zone. There's a Wasteland. Perhaps some color issues for Merriam.
It's not uncommon for Sultai Delver. They have pretty sensitive mana bases and a bunch of Wastelands, so it's not uncommon for them to be missing colors.
Fairly reliant on old Deathrite Shaman for color fixing at times.
Yeah, definitely.
Duke without a third land, so Merriam will shrug his shoulders. Get in here with Deathrite Shaman yet again. Duke will go down to 18. There's a blue to Delta, so everything's A-okay here for Merriam.
Big deal now, a land in the graveyard for his Deathrite Shaman. Green mana, land number 3. And a Reid stumbling again out of the gates.
A Bayou is the weapon of choice here for Ross, and we'll see what spell he's going to cast, assuming he's going to play one. It's a Tarmogoyf. An island here for Reid, and a passing of the turn. We go back Ross's way. We'll have our handy-dandy Tarmogoyf die out there for everyone at home in just a moment. See if the Lurgoyf is a 1-2. Here's a Sylvan Library looking to make it a little bit larger if it gets countered.
Good sequencing there. You want to play pre-combat, so if Reid has a counterspell. Now there's an enchantment in the graveyard.
It's a good deal either way. If it gets countered, Goyf's bigger, and if it resolves, well, that's pretty good too.
You have a Sylvan Library in play.
So there is the library, and it is in play. Duke will take a little bit of damage here, and he'll just have to pass the turn back.
Quickly changing the art around there on the screen so you don't have to look at the gobbledygook template on the 4th edition Sylvan Library.
Oh, you don't like the old one?
Oh, I love hilarious old templates. It's just not very helpful for the viewers at home. Some of whom may not have been playing Magic in 1995.
Well, shame on them.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Shame on them, but you got to work around the needs of your audience.
You do. Ross is going to take all those cards. This means he's paid 8 life.
That's my favorite play, and I do not see people do that enough in control matchups. Just take them all.
It's basically free. He's got Deathrite Shaman. You just remove
get it
a
right
creature.
back.
Yeah.
The full rebate.
2 more damage coming through. You know, Ross is off to a really, really nice start this game. Reid's not really doing much of anything. His hand is really doesn't seem very functional.
It's a lot of red blasts against Deathrite Shaman, Tarmogoyf, and Sylvan Library.
Yeah. But it doesn't take much for Reid to turn the game around. And also, Ross's clock really not all that fast. If that Tarmogoyf were a 3-power creature, might be a little bit different.
There's time. I mean, Reid can still definitely get to something like Supreme Verdict.
There goes Jace. That's a Planeswalker in the graveyard. Ross going to use the Sylvan Library yet again. He'll only take 1 card this time, and it'll be a fetch land. Verdant Catacombs to be exact. Problem here for Reid is that Ross's hand is rolled up pretty nice. You can see 3 Force of Wills, and it looks like enough blue cards to cast them all.
It does potentially make Reid's Pyroblast better down the road, but he's got to shore up what's happening on the board first.
Ross going to try to figure out the best way to attack. This is a Delver of Secrets. Again, playing this pre-combat in the off chance that Reid does counter it. Red zone time. Just 2 points as Duke goes down to 12. You can see in Reid's hand, it does look like he does have a copy of Blood Moon. Here's Terminus, sacrifice here. And Reid also has the copy of Supreme Verdict in hand.
Yeah.
Just doesn't have the land.
Land number 4 here is great.
Yeah.
If Reid's able to find it. Terminus is not a bad consolation prize, but, you know, Ross can fight over this and maybe win the battle. And the risk here is if Ross does win the battle, Reid might not get to untap.
Yep. Force will going to target Terminus. Merriam going to take a little bit of damage to cast it. Reid going to search up a mountain here.
Reid with an affinity for the Ice Age cards. I really like it.
I like it too, actually.
Ice Age Basics, Ice Age Counterspell, the blasts.
There is a blast. What this is doing, though, This is filling up the graveyard here for Merriam.
Yeah, the problem is Reid has to win this fight now because the Deathrite Shamans are going to do too much otherwise.
Flusterstorm's going to try not to let him. Reid's going to lose that fight.
And now there's an instant and a sorcery in the graveyard.
Tarmogoyf's a little bit bigger now. Yeah, it should be a 4/5 thanks to there being a sorcery. Reid will point that out. Check here with Delver. It's an Abrupt Decay. That'll flip. I think Ross can tell he's probably got this one sewn up.
This is lethal.
Sylvan Library, Liliana as well. He'll pay 4 to take the Liliana and Abrupt Decay. You can see a Force of Will in hand. This will be an attack for 7. Duke's going to go down to 2. 1 Deathrite Shaman activation should be all that it takes. Ross Merriam's going to win this game and match over Reid Duke. 2 games to 0. Sultai Delver will take care of Miracles. A little bit of retribution there for Merriam.
Some stumbles for Reid in both games, and Sultai Delver can be pretty ruthless when opponents stumble, especially in this matchup where Reid can't catch up with counterbalance due to the presence of Abrupt Decay in Ross's deck.
A very impressive win and a great start here for Ross. 6-0 is a fantastic start at any invitational, certainly this one. And another player of the many that we've featured that wants to go back to the Players' Championship.
And keep in mind, this is a tournament without buys. This is our first invitational without 2 buys in a very long time. So we're used to players like Ross and Brian Bronwyn having very good day ones on the back of the 2 buys. Now these players are doing it au naturel. Very good start for Brian Bronwyn, who we had on camera last round, and now Ross Merriam.
Also means that Ross is 2-0 with Sultai Delver. No L's necessary.
Well,